My daughter, Emily, sat beside me, small and fragile, her entire frame shaking. She was wearing my scarf, a worn piece of gear that had been on every national championship mat I'd ever coached on. It was a meager shield against the Whitlocks, who looked less like defendants and more like royalty presiding over an inconvenient court session. Ryan Whitlock, my son-in-law, was a study in calculated arrogance, his gray suit impeccable, his eyes holding the smug, cold dismissal of a man who believed the law, like everything else, was a weapon he owned. Beside him sat his father, Harold, the former judge, a man who built his empire on the very laws we were now using to dismantle him. He gave me a slow, chilling smile. It was a challenge. I wrote the rules, Rose. You're only here by my temporary permission. The wound and the witness. My lawyer, Mr. James, an old-school Boise boy, walked through the evidence. He laid out the money I'd sent Emily over for years. The $80,000 in bank transfers intended for a daughter's future, money the Whitlocks had treated like a slush fund. This is the financial history, James said, his voice ringing with professional indignation. But the real evidence, Your Honor, is not in the ledger. It's on the medical chart. He presented Dr. Carter's report, a cold, clinical summary of my daughter's broken soul, severe major depressive disorder, directly resulting from 4 consecutive miscarriages and the subsequent psychological abuse inflicted by her husband and his family. They didn't just fail to support her. They made her a spectacle of her own grief, James continued. They called her useless, a waste. On Christmas Eve, at 32-carat/circ/textf, they literally cast her out onto the porch while they raised champagne glasses by a roaring fire. That, Your Honor, is the ultimate cruelty. At that moment, I heard the subtle creak of a chair. It was Jake, my former student, the traffic cop, sitting in his uniform in the back row. He gave me a barely perceptible nod. He was the only honest witness in a room full of lies, a living rebuttal to the Whitlocks' influence. He had seen Emily shivering. He had heard the door slam shut on her. His presence alone was my quiet ace in the hole. The Whitlock counterattack. Then came the Whitlock defense. Their lawyer, a sharp, impeccably dressed woman from out of state, stood up. She didn't dispute the miscarriages. She minimized them. She didn't dispute the money. She called it a mother's overly generous gifts. But then Ryan stood. He didn't use his lawyer's words. He used his own, honed over years of casual cruelty. He looked at Emily and then back at the judge, a picture of false sincerity. Your Honor, I sympathize with Emily's condition, but her mother is exaggerating. Emily has always been fragile. The miscarriages, while tragic, became an excuse, a tactic to avoid participating in my family's life. She was always too sick or too depressed. We encouraged her to snap out of it. As for Christmas Eve, she simply went outside for fresh air after a glass of wine. Her mother kicked in our door like a lunatic. Evelyn, the mother, chimed in with a look of high moral offense. We are a family of tradition, Your Honor. Rose is a coach, a woman of aggression. She sees everything as a confrontation. She is seeking to destroy our reputation because her daughter failed to be a proper daughter-in-law. This was their strategy: attack the victim, attack the witness, and attack the moral integrity of the mother. They were twisting the narrative, painting Emily as a manipulative hysteric and me as a volatile aggressor unfit to speak for her. My blood boiled, but I had learned from years on the sidelines. A coach must wait for the right moment to call the play. The coach calls the play. Your Honor, my lawyer James began, the defense speaks of aggression. They speak of a mother out of control. Let's talk about control. Let's talk about a man who believes his wife is a liability, not a partner. James then unveiled the final piece of evidence, the reason I had flown unannounced to Boise, the recorded call. It was a transcript, carefully authenticated, of a voicemail Ryan had accidentally left on his sister Abigail's phone the week before Christmas. James read the words, cold and clinical, into the silent courtroom. She's a write-off, for times. We need a new strategy. Dad says we can't keep her on the books if she's not producing. I'm done with the emotional drama. We'll just ice her out until she signs the papers. It's a clean break. The sooner she's gone, the sooner we can move on with someone who actually contributes to the Whitlock line.
The courtroom gasped.
Emily let out a silent, wrenching sob. Ryan's impeccable composure shattered. His face went white. He shot a frantic, venomous look at Abigail, who instantly looked away, betraying him in her panic. This wasn't just evidence of cruelty. It was evidence of premeditation. The Whitlocks weren't encouraging her. They were isolating her. The fresh air story was a calculated lie to cover their deliberate, coordinated attempt to ice her out and force a divorce without having to pay alimony. The goal wasn't just divorce, it was a hostile corporate takeover of their own marriage. I leaned forward, my voice low and steady, a lifetime of Taekwondo discipline in every syllable. I looked Ryan directly in the eye and delivered the 6 words I had carried with me since Christmas Eve.
I'm
Glad you're here, Ryan. I had found the crack in their armor. The one thing they valued more than cruelty was their reputation and their power. I had a witness, a diagnosis, and their own damning words, proving their abuse was not an accident, but a strategy. The judge's gaze was hard, fixed on Ryan. The narrative had flipped. The Whitlocks were no longer the respected family enduring a nuisance. They were abusers exposed. My revenge was not loud or violent, but precise and devastating. It was the justice Emily couldn't fight for, delivered by the one person who would never let her down. Would you like me to outline the potential consequences and the final settlement or resolution to this legal confrontation?